G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to the patch 1.51 test server with Mags, and we're on board the Leopard I today. Now upon logging into the 1.51 test server, I found that my account details had not been updated in about 3 months. My snapshot was out of date, so I was missing a few vehicles, but I did find that I had 17,500 gold available. Now that gold wasn't enough for me to be able to fully unlock the tank and take it into battle, but it was enough to unlock down to it, so I could take it out for a test drive. But in a way that is a good thing, because it means I can tell you that to progress from the top Panther in Era 4 all the way down to the Leopard 1 unlocked will cost you just over 20,000 gold total. So, first thing I noticed about this tank, remember on the stat cards, maximum speed 66 kilometers an hour. So far, 35 is as far as I was able to do. Now, just engaging this first tank as a test run, honestly, it's only a little bloody Era 1 Russian tank. This is a big ass gun loaded with APCR, which is the standard shell for this tank. No, I didn't one-shot it, and that's because the shell was over-penetrating. It was like shooting a 357 Magnum at close range against tin foil. It's not going to do anything. T-34, one hit into it, exactly the same problem, it's just over-penetrating the T-34 again, so these are hardly valid tests. I'm just shooting these to work out the velocity and drop rates of the gun for future aiming. And the velocity is very good. There is almost no drop at this range. Put the targeting cursor on, click the button, and that's where you're going to hit almost every single time. So gun velocity, very good. Turret traverse is respectable. It's not mind-blowing, but it's respectable. The one thing you will notice as I'm maneuvering around the terrain here is I'm losing a lot of speed and I'm not turning particularly fast. The overall traverse of the hull of this tank is really only the equivalent of that of a Tiger II. It's definitely got higher acceleration, but its just traverse rates are not that impressive. Slowly stepping it up to slightly bigger targets here, and that was a one-shot. Again, it's a side shot. With this gun, the fact that you can penetrate the sides from this range is hardly impressive. I'm going to have to drive around the front of these tanks so I can frontally engage them, especially the last one, because it's something this thing is going to encounter. The IS-4 that's up the end, that's something I want to be shooting from the front. Reload rate on the gun is quite acceptable, it's under 10 seconds, it's loading new shells in fairly quickly so I can engage multiple targets, just trying extreme range against the mobile T-34. This will be a nice test for shell velocity and drop over distance, and bloody trees keep getting in the way. We got way too far ahead. Alright, velocity is higher, I've got to get closer to the target to hit him. Try and get him in between these two trees. Round about... We'll get him in this gap here. We'll try that much lead. Oh, that definitely hit. Oh, dead center. There we go. You don't need a huge amount of lead on targets. It is... yeah, very little drop rate overall. That only dropped 2 notches from where I was aiming. And that shot set him on fire as well, so... Alright, fair enough. He's burning, he's going to die in the next few seconds. We'll start thinking about driving up and around the front of these other 2 targets so we can actually go through and see what this thing is like trying to penetrate the front armor of the tanks that it will actually be facing. Although, did you see that? Bounced off the front of a T-34. There you go, that's how awesomely powerful the gun on this thing is. It will bounce off the front of a T-34 if it angles far enough. And there we go, T-34's dead. Alright, let's pack this gun up. Go up around the front of the other targets and we'll engage them frontally so we can actually deal with some armor that we're going to have to deal with in actual combat. While we're at it, it gives us a chance to open up the throttles and see whether or not this thing can actually make its famed 66 km/h stat card speed. And it's not looking good so far. I'm sitting on about 34 to 35 kilometers an hour on a very slight incline over standard terrain. Oh, 37, 36. And it's slowing down as it steepens up a little bit. It did accelerate out to its speed very quickly, 33. Yeah, it's looking like in actual combat over the terrain you'll be facing in War Thunder, this thing's only going to actually be able to capable of hitting between 30 and 40 kilometers an hour, depending on incline. Alright, so we'll shoot the KV-2 first. We won't actually face KV-2s in combat, but it's got enough armor and we'll engage it slightly angled, and yep, that went straight through. And there's no more KV-2, so that's... honestly, that's about what I expected out of this gun. I would have been rather disappointed if that had bounced. So we'll move up a little bit further because I want to really take a crack at this IS-4, because it's something we will actually be fighting when we're driving a Leopard I. Once again, we'll open up the throttles up here. We're on relatively flat terrain, couple of little bumps here and there, and see what we can get, and it's still sitting at about 33. Again, it accelerated out to 33 almost instantly, but what it's actually doing is, well, that's 33 is not 66, so 37, 38, 39, oh, we almost hit 40. There's 40 kilometers an hour. There we go. 40 kilometers an hour on the flat, 42, 43, and the second we turn, we drew 10 kilometers an hour almost instantly. Alright, so we'll line up a shot, get up here, and we'll see if we can get an angle on this IS-4. See what angle we're actually at. Alright, so we're going to attack it slightly angled. We'll hit it in the side of the turret. And no, we won't. We're going to shoot too high. Alright, we'll drop the gun a little bit. Oops. Right, shell velocity is very good. I don't need to give it that much compensation for drop. Oh, that penetrated nicely. Okay, so we can penetrate IS-4s on the turret if they're angled, but that didn't kill him. So that's alright. We'll move over a little bit for what happens if the driver comes straight at you frontally, because that's how you're supposed to engage in an IS-4. You go straight at your enemies. Most of the Russian heavy tanks are designed to engage in that manner. Especially when you start looking at things like the new T10, which is all spaded at the front, so you just drive it at the enemy. Do not turn, do not angle, unless somebody's going to get a shot at your side, in which case you can render that extreme. MG, we'll get that out of the way. Okay, this is almost directly from the front. First shot into the mantlet. Oh, hit the top of the tank, did penetrate. Okay, that's interesting. It looked like it ricocheted off the vision sight somehow there. Interesting. Mantlet, nothing. No pen. Front of the hull, once it reloads. Come on, get the shell in, fire again. Ricochet. Reload again. And ricochet off the central plate. Try the left-hand side of the mantlet this time. Actually, no, we'll try this right-hand corner. There's an ammo rack that sits in behind there. Hit and ricochet. Yeah, just right-hand side of the gun. There's a hole in the plate there that you can potentially hit if you're lucky. Nope. Ricochet. Slightly low. We'll try and get into the turret ring this time. Slightly too low, ricochet off the front plate. Try the gunner's port, or the vision port, ricochet. Keep in mind that this tank, if we were in actual combat and that was player driven, would have only have had to shoot me once at this point, and regardless of angle, he would have gone through. Ricochet off the mantlet. So yeah, I'm dead about 4 times over at this point in this particular combat scenario. Left-hand side turret cheek, ricochet. Can we hit the gun? Can we hit the gun? Can we disable his gun? That would be interesting. Aim for the gun. No, but we hit the viewport. We damaged the viewport, but it didn't actually penetrate into the tank. Try and aim slightly higher this time. And yes, we can hit the end of the gun, and it looks like it did critical damage and ricocheted over and impacted the tracks as well. Not that it did any damage for the tracks. The gun would be disabled at this point, however. Fire again, and we got a penetration, finally. If you hit the viewport for the driver perfectly centered, it will actually go through. Put another shot into it, but it looks like that was a killing blow. The markers are gone, yeah. No indicators from this time. So, there you go. There is one point in the front of the tank that you can hit with this gun and have it penetrate with stock ammunition. However, with the armor on this tank, if the IS-4 had fired in return, I would have died. That's not a great start. Now, that is with stock ammunition. Of course, if you load up the fin-stabilized heat round, it would have just melted a hole straight through the front of the IS-4, but not everybody's going to have that available. That's a tier 4 unlock on this tank, and it's going to cost you 40,000 research points alone, not counting the 100,000 research points that you're going to have to put into the tank previously in order to get to that particular shell. So when these things go into combat, they are going to be easy meat for IS-4s if the drivers keep their front aimed. And well, you saw it was actually quite difficult. I took at least 4 shots at that driver's port and kept missing. It just wasn't accurate enough to hit the target, at least not perfectly. So for a final test, I want to see whether or not this thing can actually do 66 kilometers an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop up around the back of this map. Now there's a massive ridge line just to my right over here. I'm going to drive up to the highest point in the ridge line that has the steepest incline down, drive down it and see whether or not we can hit 66 down a slope. Because so far the highest we've seen is 42 on the flats. Driving uphill, we're looking at about a 5-degree incline or less at the moment, and we're sitting on 35 kilometers an hour. We're not going any faster than that. So this is going to be your standard combat speeds in the Leopard. It accelerates out to 35 quickly, but 35 is going to be your magic number for combat speed. It's not the 66 that everybody was claiming was going to make this tank ridiculously mobile. It's going to be a 7.7 Hellcat. It's going to be overpowered as buggery. No, it's got no armor and it only does 35. And two of the tanks that have just been released into the game for the Russian and American trees that will be fighting it have guns just as good as it is, with just the same amount of velocity. They're going to have no problem hitting this thing moving at 35. And it's not particularly mobile in the traverse either, so it's not going to be changing direction rapidly, and if it does, it throws a lot of speed when it does it. So we're up on that ridge line now. We'll go a little bit further up. It's a little bit higher and a little bit sharper incline up here. Yeah, around here will do. I'm actually going to turn it off to the left, and we'll bring it around. I'll get a little bit of a run up. We'll move a little bit further up because it's a little bit steeper up here, and I'm going to get a run up. I want to be at 35 when I hit the ridge lip, and we'll see whether or not we can get it to 66. Just bring it back this way. Turn it around, and there we go, the ridge just there. That'll do. Straighten her up. Alright, 28, 29, 30, 33, 34, 35, there's 35, and we go down the hill. 44, there's 50, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, it's very slowly accelerating. So there's 60. And that's it. We're not accelerating. We hit 60 and it stopped dead. And we're now decelerating because we're no longer on a steep incline. So there you go. 66 listed top speed. You throw it down the side of a hill and it can only actually hit 60, and it can only maintain that while the hill is there. The second the ground starts flattening out, it drops back to 50 kilometers an hour, or just over 50 kilometers an hour. So that is the Leopard 1, ladies and gentlemen. Is it the overpowered tank that you thought it was going to be? Is it the horror that was going to bring about the nightmares of Era 5? I honestly don't think it is. I think it is less mobile than I was anticipating it being. I think it's slower than it looked like it was going to be. I think the gun doesn't perform as well as I was hoping it would. And in comparison against the T60, which has the same levels of mobility, a slightly slower top speed, but probably capable of that 35 as well, with just an almost identical gun, and the T60, which is significantly slower, but damn near impenetrable, that's the T10 rather, damn near impenetrable, I really don't think this tank is all that much. Cool tank, definitely unlock it, but it's not going to break the game. Drive smart, drive safe, I'll catch you on the battlefield.